Hello, welcome back to our channel where teacher Jayson will give you a virtual lecture on our subject creative writing. This is the part 2 and the continuation of our previous video. So I will just reiterate or I will just repeat our main learning competency is to write a short poem applying various elements and literary devices, exploring innovative techniques with specific learning objectives. Number 1, to identify the various elements and literary devices of poetry. Number 2, share insights based on poem read. And number 3, write a well-crafted poem. Okay, so in our previous video, we have already discussed and reviewed the forms and the different elements of poetry that we are going to consider in writing our poem. Now, to achieve our second specific objective, which is to share insight based on the poem read, we are going to analyze a certain poem, and I shared this poem with you last week. So let us see, let's going to review if your answers for the poem analysis I gave you last week is correct. So this is it has a double purpose. We're analyzing a poem right now, and we're also checking if your answers for our last week's activity is correct. Okay, so are you ready? Okay, let's start with our poem analysis. I'm going to give you the poem entitled Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas. Okay, so let me read the poem to you aloud, because in order to analyze the poem, we first have to enjoy the musicality of the poem or the rhythm. So we have to read it aloud and feel the poem as we read it. Okay? Again, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The wise man at the end know dark is right. Because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good man, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the song in flight, and learn too late they grieve in its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men, near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there in the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Okay, so that's the poem by Dylan Thomas. It's one of my favorite poem actually when I was still in college. So I decided to share this to you as an example for our poem analysis. Now, in order to analyze this poem, I prepared series of questions to guide you in this analysis. The first question is, what is the rhyme scheme of the poem? Okay, the rhyme scheme of the poem is ABA, 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 and ABAA. Okay, how did we do that? How did we come up with that answer? Okay, let us look into the end rhyme of the poem. So the first line is letter A, that's night. Then day, that's letter B, because that is another sound. Then light rhymes with night, so it's letter A again. Then right okay, rhymes with night and light. So again, it's letter A. Then they rhymes with day. So that's letter B. Then another night, which rhymes with right, light and night. So that's again letter A. Bright, again, that rhymes with night, right, and light. So that's letter A. Then bay, so it rhymes with they and day. So that's letter B. Okay, so if you notice, that's ABA, ABA. Now we go to the next stanza, flight. Okay, it rhymes with light, so it's letter A. Way rhymes with bay, so that's letter B. Then night rhymes with flight, so again it's letter A. Sight rhymes with night, so it's letter A. Gay rhymes with way and bay and they and day, so that's letter B. Okay, so night, okay, that's another letter A. Okay, then, oh, sorry, we're on, yeah. And then, in the last stanza, if you notice, this is the last stanza, so is height, that's letter A, pray, letter B, then night and light are both letter A. So that's why we come up with the pattern ABA, ABA for the 5 stanzas. And for the last stanza, we come up with ABAA as our rhyme scheme. Okay, so that's how we get the rhyme scheme. And when I ask you to show me how you get it, so I'm expecting you to label each line with letters according to their sound. Okay, question number 2. The poem is composed of letter A, 5 tercet and 1 quatrain. Letter B, 5 quatrain and 1 tercet. Letter C, 5 tercet and 1 cinquain. And letter D, 5 couplet and 1 quatrain. Okay, so remember our lesson on the number of lines per stanzas. Again, if the line has 1 stanza is a monostitch, 2 couplet, 3 tercet, 4 quatrain, 5 cinquain, 6 sexain or sestet, then 7 is septet, then octave, if it has 8 lines. Now let us check what is the correct answer. Okay, the first stanza, there are 3 lines, so it's a tercet. Second stanza, 3 lines, so it's another tercet. Third stanza is another tercet. Fourth stanza, 3 lines as well, so it's another tercet. And the fifth stanza has 3 lines as well, so it's another tercet. So there are how many tercet? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there are 5 tercet, and the last stanza is a quatrain because it has 4 lines. So it is safe to say that these poems composed of 5 tercet and 1 quatrain. So the answer is letter A. Okay. Next question. How many syllables are there in the first line of the poem? Okay. That is a very easy question. All you need to do is to syllabicate it. Okay. Separate them by syllable. How did we do that? Okay. So, we separate them with a slash, okay, to check how many syllables are there in a sentence, or in that line, sorry. So, do not go gentle, okay, gentle is 2 syllable, in 2, that's another 2 syllable, that 1 syllable, good, and night. So, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are 10 syllables in that line. Okay. Number 4. What poetic meter and metrical pattern is used in the first line of the poem? Is it an iambic pentameter? Is it a trochaic pentameter? Is it iambic tetrameter? Or is it a trochaic hexameter? So let us check. The first line says, do not go gentle into that good night. Okay, first we syllabicate it, separate it by syllable. Do not, then go, then gentle, that's two. So we have to separate gentle. Into, that's another two syllables. So we have to separate them. That good night. So if we're going to, the next thing we do is we have to identify the stress. Do not. Okay, you do not say do not, but you say do not. So not is stressed. Go gentle. Okay, so gen. Okay, this one, the gen is stressed. Then to is unstressed. Into. Okay, into that good night. Okay, if you're going to take a look, it has a pattern: unstressed followed by stressed, then unstressed followed by stressed syllable. So that's an iamb. So how many iambs do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are there are 5 iambs or 5 groups, so it's called an iambic pentameter. Since there are 5 iambs in that line, okay, in that line it has 5 iambs. So the answer is iambic pentameter. Okay, next question. Do lines 2 and 3 shares the same poetic meter in line 1? Now, if line 1 is an iambic pentameter, let us see if lines 2 and 3 shares the same by doing the same procedure we did a while ago. Okay, let's do it in the second line. For the second line, old age should burn and rave at close of day. So the first thing we are going to do is we have to syllabicate it. Okay, so old age should burn and rave at close of day. So we have already separated it by syllable. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to identify which syllable is stressed and which ones are not stressed. So old age, okay, so old is unstressed, age is stressed. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. So those are our stressed syllables. So if we're going to look into the pattern, we came up with another iambic pentameter. So line 1 and line 2 are both iambic pentameter. Now, we have line 3 in order to conclude our answer. Okay, for line 3, we have to syllabicate again. Rage, rage, against. Against, that's 2 syllables, so we have to separate it. Against the dying. Dying is 2 syllable, so we have to separate that as well. Of the light. Okay, so we come up with these syllables. So we're going to identify now the stressed syllables in order for us to identify the poetic meter. Okay, so rage, okay, that's strong because it's in strong emotion. Rage, so that's stressed. Another, rage, because you say rage, rage against the dying of the light. So another, that's another stress. So the first foot is a spondee, while the next is against. So against, that's the second syllable has a stress. The dying, okay, dying, the first syllable is stressed, while the second syllable is unstressed, of the light. So if we notice, we came up with one spondee, and there are 4 iambic tetrameter, 4 iambic lines or iambic feet. That is why we call it iambic tetrameter. Okay, so 1 spondee and 4 iambs, or we can call it a spondaic monometer and iambic tetrameter. So going back to the question, do lines 2 and 3 shares the same poetic meter in line 1? The answer is no, because the first and second lines are iambic pentameter. However, The third line is composed of a spondaic manometer and an iambic tetrameter. Now let's go to question 6. What does the word good night means in the first line of the poem? Okay, the first line of the poem says, do not go gentle into that good night. So what does the word good night mean? So good night is a metaphor. A metaphor to, okay, letter A, is it a beautiful evening? Letter B, is it a greeting? Or letter C, is it death? Or letter D, it does not have meaning at all. If we're going to analyze it carefully and understand the poem, do not go gentle into that good night. Okay, good night means, yes, letter C, that's death. Okay, why did we choose death, or why is it that good night means death? If we're going to read the next lines, it says, old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So it symbolizes the life of a certain person that is about to put off or about to die. The close of day means the coming of the end. The close of day, that means the end of the day. And it says, and the last line, against the dying of the light, meaning the light is about to die. So good night in the first line clearly means that the persona in this poem is talking about death. Okay, so the answer is letter C. For number 7, what is the meaning of the first line in the second tercet? Now the second tercet, it says, the first line there says, the wise men at their end know dark is right. What is the meaning of that line? Letter A, wise men are fools. Letter B, wise men knew that death is inevitable. Letter C, wise men cannot accept death. Letter D, wise men are afraid of death. Okay, so what does the line, the wise men at their end know dark is right? Okay, so we have to take into consideration the part that the wise men at their end, meaning at their end, at the end of their journey, they know that at the end there is darkness. Okay, there is darkness. They already know that. So it means that they already know that death is inevitable. You cannot escape it. It will eventually come to everyone. No one can escape death, and everybody knows that. The wise man knows that however how powerful they are, how knowledgeable they are, or how strong they are, they always know that at the end there is darkness, and that certain darkness means the end of our life, the end of our light, and the end of light means death. Okay, so they know that the end, which the death, is inevitable. No one can escape it. So the answer is letter B. For question number 8, what is the symbolic meaning behind the words in the third tercet? Okay, the words in the third tercet says, good man, last wave, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in Green Bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Letter A, it expresses how good men accept their death happily. Letter B, it expresses their rage against death. Letter C, good men think they deserve to die. And letter D, good man thinks everyone will die someday. Now, if we're going to look at the third tercet, we can say that The good man, the last wave by, the last wave, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in Green Bay. Okay, that line there, crying how bright. Okay, they are crying. It symbolizes how they cannot accept how their deeds might have danced in Green Bay. They're thinking that they could have achieved something or they could have done more, they could do more. However, they know that at the end, there is always death, but they say, rage, rage. They're trying to fight, they're trying to avoid. They know that at the end there is death, but they are still resisting. They don't want to die, and they are angry about death. So the answer is letter B. It expresses the rage against death. Okay, so they are angry. There's a rage. Okay, they know that there is always an end to everything, but they just can't accept it. They are angry of the end. They don't want to die, because even though how people live in this earth, even though they are poor or they experience suffering, we always think that we could have done better. We always think that we could still do more, and that given the chance, we can overcome our limitations. So everybody really wants to cling into this life. Everybody wants to continue living, even though they know that there is always an end to everything. Okay, now to question number 9. What is the meaning of the first line in the last stanza? Okay, what's the first line in the last stanza? And you, my father. So now we know that this persona is talking to his father who is about to die. And you, my father, there on the sad height. Okay, what does that mean? Letter A, it symbolizes the closeness of death. Letter B, it symbolizes sad life of his father. Letter C, it symbolizes how sad he is at the sight of his father. And letter D, it symbolizes the acceptance of death. So again, and you, my father, there on the sad height. Height, meaning his body is on the peak. Okay, it symbolizes the closeness of death. His father is about to die. Okay, so now we know that at the end of this poem, we already know that the persona is talking to his father who is about to die. So the answer is letter A. Number 10. Do not go gentle into that good night is an example of what kind of poetry? Is it descriptive? Is it lyric poetry? Is it narrative? Or is it a sonnet? If you have read it together with me, you must have felt the strong emotion poured by the writer or expressed by the persona of the poem. And that only tells us that this poem contains strong emotion. Therefore, it is a lyric poetry. Okay, letter B. Okay, so if your answers are correct, congratulations. If your answers are not correct, do not be sad. Do not be disappointed. It's natural to commit mistakes. So let us exercise more, practice more analyzing poems. We will get there later. Okay, the more poetry you're gonna read, the more familiar you are with the elements, and it will be easier for you to analyze the next poem that I'm going to give you for a poem analysis. Okay, now that we have analyzed a poem, it is time to write your own. Yes, this is it. I know you are afraid, you might be hesitant, or you have doubts about your ability to write a poem. But let go of those doubts, let go of those fears, because after all, poetry is about expressing yourself. Okay, you must be able to express yourself using beautiful words. Okay, so there are several steps that you are going to follow. Okay, and there is a news. Okay, so you have received your module, and there are activities on that module. No? So I want you to disregard all those activities and focus into this activity. This is the only activity that I want to receive. Okay? During the schedule for returning of your modules and summative test. Again, this is the only activity that I want to receive. But if you're going to give me answers to the activities in the module, which is basically the same as what you're going to do, that's okay. I'm fine with that because I appreciate that you are taking a lot of effort in this subject. But if you are going to do only this, then that's okay as well. Okay, so let's proceed. Step 1. Decide what would be your theme. Okay, before anything else, before writing, you have to decide what is your poetry all about. Okay, would you like to write about love? Would you like to write about friendship? Would you like to write about how broke you are in love? Or it's about negative emotions of love? Or it's about sadness? It's about poverty? Anything you choose. It depends on your heart. It depends on what you want to write. Okay? So once you decide on the theme, you have decided already what your theme would be, you decide the form of your poem. Okay? You are going to decide whether you want to write a narrative poem, whether you want to write a lyric poem, either it's an ode or an elegy or a sonnet perhaps, it depends on you, or you want to write a haiku or a limerick. Okay? If you decide to write in free verse, that's okay, but first I want you to focus on the three. Okay, I want you to focus on the three: narrative, descriptive, and what's that again? Narrative, descriptive, and lyric poetry. So you choose among the three what form your poem would be. Okay? So what form would you like to write? Okay, so you have to decide before writing anything else. Now once you have decided that, write anything that comes into your mind. There are a lot of ideas, a lot of words that will come into your mind, a lot of imagination, a lot of emotions. Pour it out. Just write it down without limit. Once you have written everything you want to express, now that's the time that you are going to arrange your thought into lines and stanza. So this time you are going to decide how many stanzas will there be in your poem and how many lines are you going to put in every stanza. Okay, so again, I'm not limiting you. Do as you want, as long as you are following the steps I am giving you. Okay, next, read your poem aloud. Choose the right words carefully. You might want to reconsider the words that you choose. And in order to do that, you can consult a dictionary or you can read another poem for an inspiration. Okay, as to what would be the exact words that you're going to use in every lines. You have to consider rhyme scheme, okay, the rhyming ends. Okay, if they want to have it all rhymed, or would you like to come up with a specific pattern for your rhyme scheme? That will be up to you. And you also might want to consider poetic matter. Okay, so it is up to you on how you're going to decide or what kind of poem would you like to achieve. The number 6, read your poem aloud and finalize. If you think your poem is already good in your hearing and you can feel the emotion, then you can finalize it. Decide if you are already contented with your poem or if you want to still revise it. It's all up to you. Once you have finalized your poem, write it in a long bond paper. Okay? And in a separate sheet of bond paper, a long bond paper, the first bond paper contains your poem, then the second sheet of paper will contain your analysis of your own poem. You're going to explain to me the structure and elements you used in your poem. Okay, so follow these guide questions in giving me your own analysis. Okay, number 1, what is the theme of your poem? You explain it to me. What is the theme? Second, what is the form of your poem? And you explain why it is a lyric, why it is descriptive, or why it is a narrative poetry. Okay? Number 3, you explain the structure of your poem according to lines and stanza. Okay, you must be able to name these lines and stanza that you have used in your poem. Number 4, what is the rhyme scheme of your poem? Okay, just let me know. Tell me what's the rhyme scheme of your poem. And number 5, if you have written a meter poem, if you have written a meter poem in which you might opt not to use a meter poem because you are free to write in free verse, explain its poetic matter if you decided that it is a metered poem. But if it is not a metered poem, still give me an analysis of its matter. You didn't decide, tell me why it is not metered or why it is called a metered poem. Okay? What literary devices are used in your poem? Enumerate. What are the different literary devices? You must start with the sound device and the figurative language that you use. And then you point it out which line is onomatopoeia, which line uses simile, which line uses metaphor, and so on and so forth. Okay? Then give us an explanation of your poem line by line. Okay? So that's it on how you're going to analyze your poem. Okay, so if you have further questions, feel free to give me a message or to leave a comment in the comment section below. I hope that you have grasped everything, understand everything that I have shared to you today. And again, I would like to repeat, I am only expecting this output on May 10. You may disregard other activities in your module and submit to me only this output on May 10. Okay, so that's it for today. Have a great day and goodbye. See you in our next episode. Have a great day.